Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling a conflict that cost more American lives than every other American war combined. We're talking about a war that America fought against itself, the American Civil War. So, for 4 incredibly long and brutal years, from 1861 to 1865, the United States literally tore itself in two. And look, this wasn't just some political disagreement. This was a violent, all-out war between two fundamentally different versions of what America should be. A conflict that would, no joke, decide the very soul of the nation. So you have to ask, right? What on earth could possibly drive a country to declare war on its own people? It's a huge question. To even begin to answer it, we have to dig into these deep cracks that were forming, divisions that pushed a young nation right to the absolute brink. All right, so to really get this, you have to picture America in the mid-1800s not as one country, but as two totally different economic worlds, just happening to share the same flag. And believe me, they were on a collision course. Okay, so check this out. On one side, you've got the North. It's all about factories, manufacturing, and growing cities. They wanted tariffs, which are basically taxes on imported goods, to protect their new industries from cheaper foreign products. But then you look at the South. Their entire world was agricultural. Think massive plantations growing cash crops like cotton. They needed to sell that cotton to places like Great Britain, so they wanted the exact opposite, tax-free trade, to make the most profit. See the problem? Their economic goals were completely incompatible. But here's the thing, that huge economic split, it was built on top of something much darker. A moral crisis that you just couldn't ignore. We're talking about slavery. And it wasn't just a part of the Southern economy. No, it was the entire engine. I mean, that entire agricultural machine in the South, especially those enormous cotton plantations, it all ran on one thing, the forced labor of millions of enslaved African Americans. It is so important to understand this. This wasn't just a piece of their economy. For all intents and purposes, it was their economy. And the system they used was called chattel slavery. Chattel is just another word for personal property. It meant that human beings were legally considered things, like a piece of furniture or livestock. You could buy them, sell them, they had zero rights as people. And get this, for a staggering economic fact. In 1860, the monetary value placed on the 4 million enslaved people in the South was more than all the factories, all the railroads, and all the banks in the entire country, combined. You can see how this created a moral conflict with the North that was just impossible to solve. So you've got this growing anti-slavery movement in the North. And then Abraham Lincoln gets elected president. Now, he was on the record saying he opposed the expansion of slavery into new territories. For the Southern states, this was the final straw. They saw it as a direct threat to their economy, their society, their entire way of life. And their solution? Well, it was the most drastic thing you could possibly imagine. They decided to just leave. And you can see the fracture right here on this map. It started with South Carolina, and pretty soon 11 southern states had seceded, breaking away to form their own country, the Confederate States of America. The point of no return came in April 1861, when Confederate forces fired on Fort Sumter, a U.S. federal fort in Charleston Harbor. And that was it. The war for the Union was on. So, let's just quickly walk through the next 4 years of this insane conflict. It all kicks off at Fort Sumter in '61, but what's really crucial here is how the reason for the war started to shift. By 1863, Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation turned it into a fight for freedom. Then you have the Battle of Gettysburg later that year, a horrific, bloody fight, but a massive turning point. After the Union victory there, it was really the beginning of the end for the Confederacy. And the human cost, it's almost impossible to comprehend. Just look at Gettysburg. In just 3 days, there were around 50,000 casualties. That's soldiers killed, wounded, or missing. 50,000. It is still the single deadliest battle in American history. And right in the middle of all this chaos was one man, the guy whose job it was to somehow steer the country through this unbelievable storm. Abraham Lincoln. He gets elected in 1860, and he has this one single unshakable belief. The United States is one nation, indivisible. You can't just decide to leave. So at the very start of the war, his goal was singular: preserve the Union, whatever it takes. But then comes the Emancipation Proclamation. And this is a total game changer. With this act, Lincoln fundamentally redefined what the war was all about. It wasn't just a political struggle anymore. It wasn't just about holding the country together. Nope. Now it was a moral crusade. It was a war to end slavery and to finally deliver on the nation's promise of freedom. And you can really hear this new vision in his famous Gettysburg Address. He's standing on that battlefield, surrounded by all that loss, and he gives this short, incredibly powerful speech. He's not just there to honor the dead, he's laying out a vision for what America could become, a nation that would have a new birth of freedom, ensuring that democracy itself would survive. So, after 4 years of unimaginable bloodshed, what was it all for? What was the ultimate significance of the American Civil War? What did it all mean for the future of the nation? Well, the changes were profound. They completely remade the country. The biggest one, of course, the institution of slavery was finally abolished. Done. It also settled the question of whether a state could just leave the Union, and the answer was a definitive no. This forged one indivisible nation. And beyond that, the massive war effort actually kickstarted an industrial boom, modernized the banking system, and really set the stage for America to become an economic powerhouse. And this iconic image, this is the moment it all officially ends. Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendering to the Union's General Ulysses S. Grant. The war was over. The Union was preserved. But the road to healing the country's deep, deep wounds, well, that was going to be a much, much longer fight. So in the end, the Civil War answered two fundamental questions. It forged one indivisible nation, and it abolished slavery. But the conflict left us all with a new, enduring question, one we're still grappling with. How do the echoes of that struggle for freedom, for equality, and for national identity still shape the America we live in today?